Do you want to be extra bloody thick? Do you want to prove to all your friends that you are in fact Australian? Do you want to quickly remodel your entire room and probably trip the hell out of your entire audience? Well, you've come to the right place, because today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do all of this. And the best part, you do not have to change your diet. You do not have to buy a plane ticket or change your citizenship. And you don't have to consume any illegal substances. Please, YouTube, do not demonetize me. How's it going, guys? Hope you all having a fantastic day. My name is DeSynkro. There are so many cool things that you can do with OBS. So many awesome effects, gimmicks, and fun things. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. That you can do whilst live streaming. I myself do a lot of live editing on my streams, and the question that I get asked very frequently is, how do I do it? Today I'm going to be teaching you guys 3 simple and funny little effects that I have on my stream that my community loves playing around with. One of them is the wide camera effect, one of them is going to flip you upside down, and then the last one is going to mirror your screen. We're also going to be making 3 different ways to turn these effects on. We're going to be turning them on through channel points, and then I'm going to teach you guys how to turn them on via chat commands, so then you and your moderators can type a command in chat and turn them on. And finally, we're going to make it so you can press a button and manually turn them on. We're going to be using Touch Portal for this, so if you don't have Touch Portal installed, I highly recommend you check out this video over here. It's a guide that I made on installing and setting up Touch Portal and linking it to both your Twitch and your OBS. To summarize what Touch Portal is, it's a free Stream Deck alternative for your phone that lets you do some really awesome stuff. So, let's get right into it. So, what do we need in order for this to work? The way we're going to be doing these effects is through filters that we're going to be adding to the sources in our OBS to flip our camera. There are 2 plugins that we need to download and install on our OBS. Number 1 is the plugin that adds the 3D transform filter, and that is through StreamFX. StreamFX adds a ton of new and exciting things in your OBS, such as blurs, drop shadows, and much more. It has a filter called 3D transform, which lets you rotate your source in so many different and wacky ways. And the second is the move transition. The move transition lets you move your sources and your scenes around. It adds like this really smooth transition, but it also adds a filter called the move value. And what the move value does, it lets you basically move the values of another filter. And what we're going to be using that for is to move the value of the 3D transform, so then when we flip upside down or mirror our screen, it looks super smooth. So how do I install these plugins? It's very simple. The link to each of the plugins is going to be on the description of the video. First off, let's install StreamFX. Head over to the website, then on the top right, there should be a button that says Go to Download. Click the button and it'll take you to the GitHub. Once you're on the GitHub, scroll down until you see Assets. And here we have a few downloads. I'm assuming you're on Windows, so we're going to get the StreamFX Windows version. So here we have StreamFX Windows, download.exe. Once it's downloaded, run the exe and install it. Now let's install the move transition. Head over to the website, and on the top right, there should be a button that says download. Once you hit download, this little window will pop up. Let's get the move transition Windows, second option from the top. Once your download is done, open up the zip file that you just downloaded, copy all the contents, and then go over to your OBS directory and paste the contents there. If it asks you to replace anything, just hit replace. Awesome. Now make sure you restart your OBS if you had it open whilst installing the plugins. Now let's start making those effects. So let's prepare our OBS. The method that I'm going to be teaching you guys will not only allow you guys to turn the effects on and off using the touch portal on your phone, but also you're going to be able to turn the effects on and off with your Elgato Stream Deck if you happen to have one. I made a video teaching you guys how to control your touch portal using your Elgato Stream Deck, and I go into a little bit more detail in that video on what we're going to be doing here. You don't have to watch that video to be able to do what we're doing here, but if you want a better understanding of what we're going to be doing, link of it is going to be in the description for you guys. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to set up a few switches on our OBS. So open up your OBS and let's head over to scenes and let's make a brand new scene. We're going to name the scene switches. So now we're going to be making 3 sources for each of the effects that we're going to be doing. You can make them any source you want, it doesn't matter, but I usually go with color source and I just set the size to 1 pixel. To help you keep track of them, we're going to name them switch, dash, and then the name of the effect. So switch dash wide, where it says width and height, we're just going to change that to 1 pixel. And then we're going to go back, we're going to make a new color source, switch upside down. And then we're going to make one last one, switch, mirror. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using these sources as switches to turn the effects on and off. That's the only purpose that these sources will exist for. Once you're done with that, it's time to add the filters. So for this part, we're going to be adding the filters to the camera that we want the effects to happen on. It may seem a little bit confusing at first, but I would do my best to explain everything as we go along. So firstly, let's look for our camera source. Right click on it and hit filters. We're going to be adding effect filters. Click the plus button and we're going to be adding the 3D transform filter. We're going to be naming this camera effects. Change the camera option to perspective and now we don't need to touch anything here. Okay, so now we're going to be adding 6 move value filters, 2 for each of the effects that we're doing. I would highly recommend you guys to name them like how I'm doing, just to help you guys keep track of it. So the first move value, let's name it wide on, and then let's make another one and name it wide off. Then the third one is going to be upside down on, and the next one is going to be upside down off. And finally, the 5th and 6th, we're going to do mirror on, and finally mirror off. Okay, so you should have wide on and off, upside down on and off, and mirror on and off. Okay, so now let's set up each individual filter, starting with wide on. Once we've done the first one, the next one should be a little bit easier. So select the filter, and then head over to the tab that says filter and select the camera effects filter that we created. Then come down to settings and choose the X that is under the row Z. This is our horizontal scale. This is what's gonna make us super wide. Once you selected that, a value tab will show up and it should say 100% on it. Change that to 250%. Scroll down until you see custom duration. Custom duration is basically how fast you want the animation to play off. You can play around with this and choose the value that you want, but for this tutorial, we're going to go with 1000 milliseconds. Then come down to start trigger and select enable. Okay, awesome. We're done with this one. So to explain to you guys what we just did, we made it so once that filter becomes enabled, it'll change the value of the camera effects, the 3D transform that we made, from 100 to 250, therefore making the screen wide. You can turn on the filter and see if it's working, and if your camera suddenly turns wide, that means it's working. Now we just gotta make an off switch. Okay, now select wide off, and we're going to do exactly what we did in the previous filter, only this time we're gonna make sure the value is at 100%. So as before, select the filter, then come over to the filter bar and change the filter to camera effects. Head over to settings and then choose the X that is under the row Z. Make sure the value on this one says 100%. Scroll down, custom duration, set it to 1000. Scroll down again, start trigger, set it to enable. Awesome, so if you turn that filter on now, you should see that the camera changes back to normal. Have a play around with it if you want. Turn the wide on filter to make yourself wide, and then turn the wide off filter to make yourself back to normal. The filters should automatically turn themselves off after the animation plays out. Okay, so we're going to be doing the upside down filters now, and it should be just a little bit easier now since we've done the previous filters. So click on the upside down on, and same thing as before, we're going to go over here to filter, and we're going to select camera effects. And on the settings tab over here, instead of selecting X like we did before, we're actually going to select row Z. The value should be 0 degrees. We're going to change that to 180 degrees. change custom duration to 1000 milliseconds, and change the start trigger to enable. You guys can kind of see where we're going with this, right? Turn the filter on, and it should turn you upside down. Alright, now we're going to be doing the same thing with upside down off, but instead of 180 degrees, we're actually going to be changing it to 0 degrees. So, same thing as before, hit the filter, change the filter on the filter tab to camera effects, change the setting to roll Z, and here we have the value. Let's change the value to 0, scroll down until we see custom duration, change that to 1000 milliseconds, scroll down until we see start trigger, and let's change that to enable. And the same thing as before, once you turn it on, it should flip you back right side up. And once again, if you want, if you can actually have a play around with it, you can combine it with the wide as well, and then, yeah, we're getting there. And now we're finally down to the mirror effect, and you guys should already have a rough idea on how this is gonna go. Select the filter, change the filter to camera effects. Over here on the setting, we're going to select Yaw Y, change the value to 180 degrees, scroll down until we see custom duration, set that to 1000, scroll down until we see start trigger, change that to enable, and now if you turn on the filter, it should mirror your camera. And finally, for the last effect, we're gonna set up the switch to unmirror our camera. Same thing as before, select the filter, go over to the filter bar, select camera effects, come down to settings, Yaw Y, set this one to 0 degrees, scroll down, custom duration, 1000 milliseconds, head over to start trigger, set it to enable, and we're done. Turn the filter on, and it should return your camera back to normal. And you can also have a play around, and you can even activate all of them at once. And there you go. You're a wide, upside-down, mirrored son of a gun. And then you can just turn them all off as well. And you're back to normal. Woo! Okay, so I know there was a lot going on over there, but at the very least, we're done with OBS. To be completely honest with you guys, this was actually the hardest part of the whole thing. So things do get a lot easier from now on. Okay, so now let's head over to Touch Portal so we can start preparing all this stuff. So I'm going to be showing you guys a slightly different method of doing it to my previous videos. In the past Touch Portal videos, the events that we created were done by clicking on an empty space and by adding them through the On Events tab. Couple of problems. The problem with that method is that if you were in any other page other than the one that the button is in, those events just wouldn't work at all. The benefit to that method was that it worked with a free version of Touch Portal, but obviously the downside is that if you were on any other page, it just wouldn't work. The new method that I'm going to be showing you guys is slightly more efficient, but it does require you to have the paid version of Touch Portal, which I highly recommend. It's relatively cheap, and you only have to pay once and it's yours permanently. So for this method, we're going to be using the Events tab. So let's set up those events. First, click the Events tab up the top, then click Add Event. A new window is gonna pop up, and let's name this event Wide On. Where it says Event, let's look for OBS on Source Visibility Change. A new box is going to appear where it says When OBS Source. Let's select Switch-Y that we made in step 1 and set it so it becomes visible. Awesome. Now on the Add Actions tab on the left, let's look for OBS and set Source Filter. Where it says Turn for Source, let's select our camera that we added the filters to. Then, where it says the filter, we're gonna look for our Wide On filter and make sure at the end it says On. Now, hit Save. To explain to you guys what we're doing here, we're basically telling Touch Portal to keep an eye out on the switch that we made, and once that switch goes on, it also turns on the filter that will make us wide. To give you guys an example, once we hit the little eye icon here on the switch wide, it should automatically turn on the filter wide on. And there we go. Now what we need to do is make it so once we turn the switch off, it'll automatically turn on the wide off filter. Also, just for a little bit of troubleshooting, if for some reason your events aren't working, check that the little dot on the bottom right of your Touch Portal is green and saying that it's connected to your phone. If this is red and your phone is not connected, unfortunately the events will not work. It's one of the downsides of this method. You only have to connect your phone once and it'll stay connected until the next time you restart your computer or you restart Touch Portal. So there we go. Now we just gotta do the exact same thing, but this time for the wide off filter. So let's add a new event and let's name it Wide off. On event, let's go look for OBS on source visibility change, where it says when OBS source, select the switch wide. And this time we're gonna select hidden. We're gonna leave it as hidden. And just like last time, we're gonna go to add actions. We're gonna go to OBS, and then we're gonna select set source filter. Change the turn for source to our camera source. Select the filter wide off, and then make sure that it says on at the end. And hit save. Awesome, now we've also linked our off switch. Let's go over to OBS and just quickly test to see if it's all working. So here we go. The moment that we turn the switch wide on, it should automatically turn on the wide on filter. And once we turn it off, it should automatically turn the wide off filter. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to set up the events for the other effects as well. It should be relatively easy for you guys to do this by yourselves now. You're essentially doing exactly what we've done, but instead of selecting the wide switch and filters, you're selecting it for the other effects. By the end of it, you should have something that looks like this. You should have wide on, wide off, upside down on, upside down off, mirror on, mirror off. And if you test it out on OBS, each of them should do each corresponding effect. Okay, so this next one is for those who either don't have a Stream Deck or they just prefer to use Touch Portal instead of their Stream Deck. We're going to make it so you guys can turn these effects on with a button on Touch Portal. Open up your Touch Portal and click on a blank space. A new window will pop up. Let's give it a name. We're just going to call this one Wide. Leave it on pressed, head over to Add Actions, look for OBS, and select Source Visibility. Leave it on Toggle. Where it says For Scene, select Switches, and where it says the source, select the switch that you want, and hit Save. So now when we press that button on our Touch Portal, it'll toggle the switch on, and then when we press it again, it'll toggle it off. And of course, it's just as easy to do with the other effects. Just follow the previous steps, and instead of selecting wide, you just choose the effect that you want. Okay, so now we're going to be setting this up so we can turn these effects on and off with our Elgato Stream Deck. And this is probably the easiest step out of all of them. If you don't have an Elgato Stream Deck, you can skip this step if you want, or you can stay and learn a little bit more. Open up your Stream Deck software and add 3 sources. Change these to each of the switches that we created. So we have one for wide, we have one for upside down, and we have one for mirror. Now, whenever we click any of these switches, you can see that the corresponding effect will happen. Chat commands are relatively easy to do, and you can select who you want to be able to turn the effect on with the chat commands. If you've watched my video on controlling your Twitch with chat commands, you guys should have a rough idea on how we're going to do this. But if you haven't, we're going to be teaching you guys again here. So let's hop over into the Events tab again. Let's make a new event, and let's name it Wide Chat Command. On the event bar, let's look for Twitch on chat message event. Now let's add a cooldown to the command. We're going to set the command to 60,000 milliseconds cooldown, which is the equivalent of 60 seconds. On this green box, let's make it so only our moderators and us can turn the effects on like this. On this next box, we're gonna leave it as contain. And on this tiny box, we're gonna write the command !wide. Now, on the add actions, let's look for OBS and let's add 2 source visibilities. Set one to show and set one to hide. Where it says for scene, on both of them, we're gonna select switches. And now we're going to select the effect that we want. In this case, we're gonna go with wide. Next, on the add actions, let's look for logic and add a wait for timer. Change it from 100 milliseconds to 60,000 milliseconds to match our cooldown time, and then click and drag between the two. Hit save, and there we go. Now, if we or one of our moderators type !wide in the chat, it'll automatically turn on the wide effect. It'll stay on for 60 seconds, and then after 60 seconds, it'll automatically go back to normal. You can obviously make this as long as you want. Heck, you could even make 2 events with 2 different chat commands. One that turns the effect on, and one that turns the effect off, if you really want to go that route. And finally, we have the channel rewards. So guys, in order to turn these into channel rewards, we're first going to have to create those channel rewards on our Twitch. So open up your Twitch and click your profile photo at the top right. Head over to Creators Dashboard. Then head over to Viewer Rewards on the left and select Channel Points. Once the page opens, click Manage Rewards and Challenges. look for add new custom reward, give it a name, let's call it wide, set a description, and your price amount. I highly recommend adding a cooldown to at least a minute, but that's up to you. Once you're done, click create. Now make sure you remember the name of the channel reward that you created because we're gonna be putting it on Touch Portal. Now back on Touch Portal, let's go back to the events tab and click add event. Let's give it a name, wide channel reward. On the event tab, look for Twitch on channel point redeemed. Let's add a cooldown to the command. We're gonna go with 60,000 again, which is the equivalent of 1 minute. Where it says when channel points are redeemed for ID, type the channel reward that you created on Twitch. Now on the add actions, let's look for OBS and let's add 2 source visibilities. Set one to show and one to hide. Where it says for scene, select switches and the source, change it to the effect that you want. In this case, we're using switch wide. Next on the add action tab, look for logic, select wait for timer, change it from 100 milliseconds to 60,000 milliseconds. Click and drag between the two. Hit save, and there we go. Now if someone redeems the channel reward, the effect will play off, and then it will turn you back to normal after 60 seconds. And you can obviously make this as long as you want, but that's up to you. Woo! That was quite a lot, but I think we covered everything. So let's recap. We set up our switches on our OBS. We set up the filters on our camera. We made it so when the switches turn on and off, it'll also turn the filters on and off. We set up a button on our Touch Portal. We set up a button on our Stream Deck. We made them into chat commands, and we also made them into channel rewards. Wow, we learned a lot today, and I hope this not only helped you guys add some cool new effects to your stream, but also taught you about some of the lengths that you can go with not only OBS, but also with Touch Portal. OBS is an immensely powerful tool for streaming, and it becomes even more powerful if you combine it with the right plugins and the right tools. I hope I was able to teach you guys something new today, and hopefully you guys were able to add some new goodies to your own stream. Please let me know down in the comments if I helped, and let me know some unique ways that you'll be implementing these effects or some other effects in your channel. But thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this video was able to help you or a friend of yours in any way, shape, or form. If you have any questions and want to learn more, come check us out on Twitch. I stream Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays starting at 4 p.m. Australia West Standard Time. And I'd love to see you there. That's all for this video, friends. I hope you all have an amazing day and an amazing stream. Catch y'all later.